who, if they knew who Marduk was, if they could even tell you. It's not a very large part of human consciousness and understanding at this juncture. There's the Swedish thrash metal band, and some loose references in mythology, the Simon Necronomicon, but even within academicians, looking back at the records, the names for these figures amongst various languages and cultures were all different. Plus, they were very much interested in titles, and so within a specific cultural framework, the same being might have innumerable names to refer to the same being. A more ancient name for Marduk, translated from the cuneiform to the Semitic, is Mulukai, where the derivatives Maluk and Malek can be drawn. Even Marduk, also Marduk, is an Akkadian Semitic phonetic drawn from the Assyrians Marduk, meaning son of the pure white mound, referring to the artificial mountains that were being constructed on Earth, which further proves that all of the names by which humans come to know the Anunnaki by are essentially personas. This is important to note because the name may indeed be the way in which history has recorded him, with a little thanks to me, as I'll explain in due time, but is not the true name, just as he appeared in other parts of the world under other names, as did I, and just as Anu, meaning something in your language like Heavenly One, is not really the actual name of Anu, and was a title taken due to the position he held with the Anunnaki when they began settling here, and their legacy began being recorded for the sake of humans, and so on. If you look at the meanings held by the Sumerians in regard to those like Enlil and Enki, you can see that they, in this case, are across the board concerning human records of the ancient pantheon are simply titles. Any real disharmony in the original history of the Anunnaki is really one of usurpation for the greater good. It's seldom out of simple jealousy or the lust for power in the way in which humans might experience it. I mean, with the Anunnaki, it's always been about honor and nobility and concerning their time to rule in various ways. So these are factors that, there's important to understand the family aspects of it. There's obviously the scorn and discord and familial aspects that you would find with any such group. But really prior to the existence of modern humans, there was little on the planet to even fight over. And humans would not even be what they are now, the genetic beings they are now, had they not received this massive genetic upgrade from the Anunnaki during the time of the Agigi, and specifically the ancient Mardukite faction, including Enki. And consequently and ironically, if humans had not really been created as they are, I would never have been either, which is in part going back to the distinction between me and them. And I don't even mean just in the form that I am, as in the preservation of humanity into this day, but in the original times, my original appearance in ancient times. As my previous writings have accounted, and certainly enough literary transliterations have been recovered from museums in the current age to validate, we acknowledge what is known as the supernal trinity of Anu, Enlil, and Enki. This was not always the way of heaven, but by the time of humans and myself, this was the power system installed. Anu is recognized as the Allfather to the Anunnaki family that sparked Mesopotamian civilization, among others, though he remained distant to the physical activities taking place on Earth. By mortal standards, the house of Anu became the entire abode of heaven, leaving his sons Enlil and Enki to order the local universe and mundane worldly systems. So, to the best of my knowledge, and this comes up quite a bit actually, the Anunnaki as a family, as a genetic race of beings, does indeed come from what you would call Sirius, the Sirius star system, which is Canis Major, but many forms in the cosmos actually do, and this is not particularly unique. There's also a relationship to nearby Orion, as some would already expect already. And as we've already been bogged down into mortal semantics, I might as well continue saying that basically what you would call Sirians are the Saurians, since contemporary consciousness has already become kind of accustomed to this reptilian mode of thinking, what mortals call aliens, but the Syrians are notorious for diplomacy and politics and religion, and specifically the dynasty of An. And this has ended up being passed to the dynasty of Ib, and by way of Enlil, according to the laws of dynastic succession. Although Enki was technically the older of the two brothers, the power passed to Enlil because of his bloodline, basically being true to the Syrians, son of Anu and Antu, by the names they were given in Sumerian language. A key figure to the Enlilite dynasty was a half-sister to Enki and Enlil named Ninmah, also Ninhursag, who is technically the mother of Ninurta, heir to Enlilship in the Sumerian pantheon, and not Ninmah. It is an attempt to produce a royal heir on his own that Enki even tried to court Ninmah, but apparently was unsuccessful. She became the consort of Enlil for a time. The text I once recorded for them concerning the king list listed Enki's consort, my grandmother, as Damkina or Ninki, daughter of Alalu, the ruler prior to Anu. As I must profess again, I was not there to take genetic samples and do the genealogies myself. I simply wrote what I was told or what I could find concerning the Ancient of Days, which to me is practically everything before my ancient birth. Therefore, what I'm about to tell you is not in any of the records, but is somehow the case, and I am assuming because of Ninki, unless facts are still being hidden from me, which is indeed sometimes the case, but Marduk is only half Syrian. So one of the versions of basically a cosmogenetic political account we supplied to people in ancient times concerning the basis of raising Marduk to supremacy in Babylon. There's this famous story involving a dragon, which he is supposed to have slain, and it's actually identified as his mother. And religious connotations aside, this was kind of meant to be a clue, though not literal, of course. The dragon slaying event didn't actually take place in material existence, and it was really devised to accumulate worldly power, as I'll further explain in due time, but it was, in truth, it really showed that Marduk was half draconian from the Draco region of space-time. And that's now strongly tied to what folks know as the Great Bear, Ursa Major. And the draconian races are often distinguished by their affinity for natural sciences, mystical philosophies, mainly the intellectual fire or dragon mind. And this being said, someone familiar with some of my past writings on the subject, or even the general subject at all, might begin to understand some of the duality that later came to be, instilled in the consciousness that separated the younger generation of elder gods, those descended from Enlil and Enki, from their ancestors. So this interstellar nature of the Anunnaki can be confusing when, comparing them to like the alpha spirit form that humans would describe as subtle energy or etheric. Many of these beings reached what they considered to be the limitations of existential creation from the outside and chose instead to begin experiencing it from themselves within material existence.